Hey guys, welcome to another live Play&Explain video. This time with a bit of a different format. Trying out one tabling because we are playing in a short-handed 500 zoom pool. Check 8 suited is pretty borderline versus the slightly larger free bet, but I think it is still a hand that should defend. And ace 4 suited is actually one of those rare boards where your opponent can actually range bet. And I don't think the raising frequency is extremely high. So on a low roll I will go for the call. And I actually could see myself donking tiny on the turn. I'm not sure if it is a thing, but could certainly see it performing pretty decent. On the river I probably can't bluff this hand. I have deuces, threes, some lower flush draws. And also a block his folds. So I think I will give this hand up now. Not really sure if the turn donk is a thing at all, but even if it isn't a thing, I think it's probably tough for imposition maybe to defend versus it. And yeah, of course easy fold. But yeah, the very first hand already, interesting spots to review. Is 10 mainly folding, low frequency free bet. Versus 2.5, I think 9-6 has to call. But no business on this flop. Easy free bet, but fold to 4-bet. If it was small blind versus button, ace queen would get in there, offsuit, but in those positions it's a little bit too weak. Pretty great flop both for hand and range. Easy range bet for a small sizing. I think you could maybe even size up on this texture. Boards where the imposition flatter doesn't always make free sets and are kind of high, low, low are pretty great for you. The 10 on the turn is another card that's pretty great. And I think it actually makes sense to play a half pot strategy on the turn and still value bet hands like pocket checks, even some turn 10x. And half pot allows you to have a higher betting frequency. Also perfectly fine to see bet bigger and more polarized as well, of course. But it puts him in a tough spot with a lot of hands like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 5s. I mean, 5s probably can fold. And on the river, I think this is too thin to jam. I would imagine kings is probably the weakest hand that can go for value here. And his bluffs here are 6-5 suited, 6-7 suited. Maybe he bluffs some 10x. It is of course not a great spot, but I block queen jack suited. I think I will go for the call. But yeah, we were dead right from the beginning. Okay. Another pretty interesting hand. And I'm happy so far that I'm one-tabling because there's lots of tricky decisions, and when you are commentating the action, it doesn't make it easier to come to the right conclusion, so gives myself a bit more time to explain the spots properly. 10's easy 3-bet. Also, if you want to make money, probably 500 zoom, not necessarily the greatest game to be played. Don't think I've seen a single recreational so far. But I think for recording a video, it's a pretty awesome format. Ace-3 suited is somewhat close. Roll high, so we'll get in there. Queen 7, a bit too weak. Will always defend versus 2.5x. Versus 3x, I think it's mainly a fold, but still gets in sometimes. Versus the fiasco again. So yeah, you can drop also feedback, like how well you like this format where I'm one-tabling. I think it won't be happening too often because if I'm playing like 500 zoom doesn't run that often, and for 200 zoom I would certainly two-table. King 5 is really close, like versus 1/3 this would be the sort of hand that check raises very aggressively. Versus half pot it is pretty close. So I think I can muck versus the cutoff. Nine 7 suited will be mostly a call, low frequency 3-bet. But fortunately we don't get to see a flop. King 10 suited, of course, always defending if you 3-bets. Seven 7 deuce rainbow is not a range bet board because the big blind has more offsuit 7x, like you can flat some 6-7 off pre-flop, but it's still like a relatively high c-bet frequency, and on a mid-frequency roll I think this hand gets in there. turn 75 for check. King 10 in hearts would of course be a nicer barrel candidate. Would also rather barrel King 9, King 8 than King 10. I think it's pretty close on a lowish roll. I will go for the check back. Pretty easy to barrel a bit too much with overcards here, I would say. And on the ace river, I think we have a pretty easy check back with our king high. We are blocking all of his potential folds. I don't think if he has king 10, he should actually bet the river, so pretty easy check back. And I think his hand is most likely, I mean, it might be fine. I think I would have rather blocked in his shoes, but facing the 3-bet, king check will be a mix between 4-bet and call, and we will aggressive, so we will go for the 4-bet. In blind versus blind, you will want to 4-bet usually for a smaller sizing, because the big blind is incentivized to 3-bet polarized, so a small sizing is good enough to get the job done versus his check 5 suited, king 5 off sort of holdings. If you expect the big blind to be 3-betting too linearized, then 4-betting for a bigger sizing, and also with maybe a more linear range makes sense. Queen 4 will be a bit, versus this sizing it's close. Don't really know versus 3x, it would be a fold. Versus 2.5x I think I would VPip, but versus 2.8 I think maybe Queen 5 would be my cutoff, but haven't seen the exact preflop sims of course versus this sizing, so a bit of a guessing game. Probably a little bit less entries now, because the pool is slowing down a bit. So might just become a little bit of a shorter video, but we'll also we had already some interesting hands that I think will be also interesting to you guys. Versus the 2.2 sizing, I think every a6 has to call. And yeah, versus any sizing we have to fold. Even with the ace in space, we would just have to fold because the board is disconnected. We have so many draws, gut shots. Those backdoor flush draw hands, especially with the deuce, but even with the ace, are just not nearly as strong as in some other situations. And 8-7 suited, not really free betting in the small blind. Small blind, you are generally free betting a more linear range. Was debating it for a minute. There's some action for the video. I mean, you don't get to fold much as this sizing, but I would imagine 5-2's off is a bit too weak. 5-3 I would for sure call. Maybe 5-2's also calls. And 7 off is a bit too weak. King 9 will be a defend versus 2.3x. Unless the other players have something to say about it. if you bet small, I think this hand would make a pretty awesome candidate for a check raise, because we have you kind of want to take your worst offsuit hands because you fold out his king 10, king jack without the diamond. But this was the overbet, of course, we just are forced to muck. I think king queen with the king and diamonds might still be strong enough to call even versus the overbet. But that would be for sure the worst check call candidate. But yeah, had he bet small, I think I would really like check raising this hand, because you still have 2 overcuts to the 8, but you also have your worst king high, so you benefit the most from folding out stronger king highs, like king jack, king 10, king queen, which will bet fold without the backdoor flush draw. And of course the king of diamonds is great. 10-6 now I will for sure call versus the sizing. Would expect a lot of checks here from the small blind. Those high boards would be great if it was rainbow or two-tone. On mono boards, those high boards are actually really bad for a small blind because it takes away so many of his flushes. But yeah, we still bets, but with our hand we can't really do anything. It's fine to have a betting range, but I would just expect a check more often than not. And also, to be fair, blindly blind, the small blind still has a lot of flushes, because it still opens many suited hands that don't have an ace or a king in them. If this was under the gun versus big blind, then I think this board would be like a lot worse, because then under gun really doesn't make that many flushes. Queen 10 suited, easy defend. And will call versus half pot or smaller. I think versus 3/4, this hand would for sure be a fold. Would rather call, I think, king queen without a backdoor flush draw than queen 10 with a backdoor flush draw versus 3/4. But I think versus half pot, just press call. He does get to c-bet the flop at quite a high frequency. But I still imagine that people might over c-bet a bit too much and simplify, like they see solver bets c-bet 75 to 80%, I bet always. And now I think I will go for a step quite often. Of course, sometimes we get check raised, we have to bet fold a flush draw, it sucks, but I think with queen 10 folding out his queen jack, king queen, it's just too good. And I mean, sometimes you can check this back, but I would rather check back like king queen in hearts than queen 10 in hearts here. So I think I'll go for a stab, expecting likely an overfold compared to what should happen. And if you get jammed on, we have to fold and move on. But we take it down, so that's nice. Let's hope we get a walk with the queen 4. Never lucky. In those positions, if the button 3-bet, ace queen is a pure continue. This time we get the walk, certainly trick those. And yeah, in those games you really have to fight for every 10th of a big blind. and there's like really no recreational player in there. You do get the extra rake back on stars when there's a low player count in the pool with the early board, so that's something. But yeah, don't expect to get rich when you play those games. I think it's even like a low frequency fold, but roll somewhat high, and we are here to make a video, so we will call. But yeah. Two like different approaches here. Oh, he even goes for the half pot. Like, I think the most common are either small or even bigger, but anyway, our hand always has to fold, of course. A half pot seems a bit odd to me. I mean, it's certainly fine, like every sizing is fine, but if you go small, like 25%, I think you can simplify it to betting always, and with half pot you certainly need a check back range, and at this point I would just bet even bigger, I guess, but certainly seems fine. And I think 7-4 suited is for sure, like let's say he bets small, I think I can call or raise. He does check. So usually I would step big on the spots on a paired board, probably not. And I also have to be careful not to over c-bet. Like, this is a board where the small blind gets to have a ton of c-bets, so when he doesn't, I have to make sure that I check back enough. He insta-check backs turn, interesting. I think my delay sizing here is somewhere between half and 3/4. Basically, I want to make sure that I get the right amount of money with my 8x, with my 6x, and yeah, probably going 3/4 seems fine. I think a 6 is probably worth a 3/4 bet. And at this point, I think my main sizing is likely an overbet for trips plus. And then maybe have a smaller sizing for reverse queen. Going to size up slightly because we are a bit deeper. Take it down. Great board for us. I think just always c-betting for a small sizing here is good. Take it down. Playable hand in the big blind. But yeah, not much we can do on this flop, and I would be very surprised. Like, this seems like crazy to me to check back on this texture, but yeah, whatever. Can have it, my friend. I mean, I think this board is so bad that even versus a small sizing, I just get to fold pocket pairs already. Not 100% sure, but I do think versus MP versus button bar or not, but versus MP when the ranges get tighter. If I have a pocket pair with no backdoor flush draw, I think it's pretty close already. I think you can mark your weakest ones, would be my guess. So not c-betting just allows me to realize my equity for free with those hands. So great board for us. Going to start with a small c-bet. Don't really need much of a checking range on this board. And on the turn, on the flush completing turns, I usually size down to half pot, so I play half pot check, and this hand will always check. Having the 10 clubs is especially bad because you block, of course, some hands like 10-8 suited, that 10-18 clubs that would call flop, so you just block some auto folds from in position. And I think my hand will also fold versus. That side it's tricky versus quarter pot. Probably can't fold versus this sizing, to be honest. Versus third, I think my hand folds. Versus quarter pot with an overcut to the queen and the gut shot. I think this at least has to be a frequency call. I should have actually tanked the river because it might make sense to develop a small donk betting range for hands that want to have a bit of a bigger pot than 13 big blinds. And yeah, of course, always folding. I'm quite curious, this small turn bet would also be interested to see what the equilibrium strategy should be here. I would be surprised if small is used. I mean, usually on the flush turns you size down, so maybe that's why. But on this ace queen x texture, I mean, you are still not really incentivized to bet queen 10, for example, or ace 6. I mean, maybe. We'll certainly take a look. Overbet check texture for me, and will mostly overbet the flop. And the video is going on about 30 minutes, so I think we'll play a couple more hands and then call it a video. We'll again look at the most interesting spots in detail and put in the Pio and GTO Wizard screenshots. So yeah, waiting time again a little bit longer now, so might be a good time to just sit out next big blind. Seems like the pool is likely dying. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, there's not a single recreational playing. So, not too surprised that people are quitting. Freeze is pretty close, but I roll high, so I'll go for the open. Great board for us. Also easy call if he decides to check raise. His check raise sizing here should be small. Yeah, chooses a good sizing. You don't really want to go too big on those paired boards, and you want to check raise quite a lot. So yeah, every pair for me, of course, is an easy defend. In a turn, I don't think you should go too massive. Like, I think half pot probably seems like an appropriate sizing. Perhaps even smaller, actually. Like, a queen just doesn't want to go massive. I have so many queen X myself. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I think if he overbets, he can only already bet maybe ace queen plus, and yeah, that I think that's not the best strategy. Alright guys, so a lot of interesting hands to review, and yeah, let me know in the comments how you like the deep focus 500 zone gameplay, and see you next one. Bye.